Hare Krishna.
And we have to place.
Yeah, we let it there.
We need one flap.
In the early days in New York, Srila Prabhupada was alone, and the very first recording of a lecture from Srila Prabhupada was a program he arranged, and there were no guests coming at all. But somebody had borrowed him a tape recorder, one of those big ones, it used to be. So he kind of just pressed the button, and he gave over 3 hours long lecture, which is absolutely fantastic and inspired. And it later became the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, which is over 30 pages. So that recording is still available. You can hear Prabhupada's voice was very, very determined. So he said that even if there are not many guests, or even if there are no guests coming, why don't you simply preach to the walls, because Krishna hears you. And today's verse will be also enlightening us about this topic. But before we start, I should try and sing a little bit Radha Madhava. See how that one works. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari. Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Let's speak something from the Bhagavad Gita. I'm going to read today from chapter 15. Yeah, we can do that. Thank you. One of the most important verses in the Bhagavad Gita. It's text number 15, from chapter 15. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Sarvasya chaham ridi sanivishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvairaham eva vedyo vedantakrid vedavid eva chaham. Krishna speaking. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from Him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. Thus, the Lord is not only all-pervading, he is also localized in every individual heart. He awards the different fruitive results. He is worshipable not only as the impersonal Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the localized Paramatma, but as the form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. The Vedas give the right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home. The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna, in his incarnation as Vyasadeva, is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. The commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of Vedanta Sutra. The Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, He is the supplier and digester of foodstuff, the witness of His activity, and the giver of knowledge in the form of the Vedas, and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the teacher of the Bhagavad Gita. He is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus, God is all good. God is all merciful. Anta pravishta shashta jananam. The living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body, but he begins his work again, initiated by the Supreme Lord. Although he forgets, the Lord gives him the intelligence to renew his work where he ended his last life. So not only does a living entity enjoy or suffer in this world according to the dictation from the Supreme Lord, situated locally in the heart, but he receives the opportunity to understand the Vedas from him. If one is serious about understanding the Vedic knowledge, then Krishna gives the required intelligence. Why does he present the Vedic knowledge for understanding? Because a living entity individually needs to understand Krishna. Vedic literature confirms this. Yosau sarvair vedair giyate. In all Vedic literature, beginning from the 4 Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, and the Upanishads and Puranas, the glories of the Supreme Lord are celebrated. By performance of Vedic rituals, discussion of the Vedic philosophy, and worship of the Lord in devotional service, he is attained. Therefore, the purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. The Vedas gives us direction by which to understand Krishna and the process of realizing him. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra 114 confirms this in the following words: Tat tu samanvayat. One can attain perfection in 3 stages. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing the different processes, one can approach him. And at the end, one can attain the supreme goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, the purpose of the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas, and the goal of the Vedas are clearly defined. Sarvasya chaham hridis anavishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha Vedaish cha sarvair aham eva vedyo vedanta krid vedavid eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Ginangira Shalakaya Shaksharum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatyadesh Tarine. Welcome. So from this verse 15, chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita, is one of the most important ones in the book. We can learn, first of all, that we are never alone. We are never alone, because in the heart next to us sits the Super Soul, the Paramatma, God, Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we can also understand from this verse that from Him comes remembrance, from Him comes knowledge, and from Him comes also forgetfulness. We are all spirit souls, we are all conscious, spiritual living beings, and our purpose is to be the servant of Krishna, of Sri Bhagavan, with love and devotion. Jivara Svarup Hoy, Krishnara Nityadas. Krishnara Nityadas means the constant or eternal servant of the Lord. So, this is our original function. However, we have ended up in this material world and we have forgotten the fact that we are Krishna's servants. So that forgetfulness is also coming from Krishna. We cannot even forget God without His help. So why would we want to forget God? Well, if we analyze why we are in this world, everybody is looking for happiness. That's why, we endeavor, we work so hard. We go to school, we go to work, we take care of family, we take care of our house, our garden, everything, because we expect and hope to be happy from that. So, we ended up here because somehow we thought that we could get that happiness, we could attain that bliss without being the servant of Krishna, by doing something else, being separate from Him. So Krishna, being very merciful, He creates this entire world, this entire universe for us to try to become happy independently of Krishna. So He gives us the forgetfulness, because if we're all the time thinking about Krishna, how can we try to be independent of Him? So that's what's going on here. We are all looking for this kind of happiness, although we are forgetful who we are, really are. We think we are these material bodies, that we are man or woman or Swedish or Indian or different politic opinion or different religion. We think that we are a child, that we are a young person, that we are an old person. So we identify with these many different egos or identities, when our real and true identity is to be the servant of Krishna, regardless of what kind of material body you have, color of your skin, religion, gender, etc. So we're starting in this material world, our life in forgetfulness, and we also forget what we're supposed to do, what is our function. So we all have different ideas how I can become happy. If I just work hard and try to do this, or if I just do this and do that, then I will get happiness. So an important part of our stay here is that we ultimately realize that there is no real happiness, not for a spirit soul. There is no real happiness here, unless and until we try to reconnect with God, with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And to do this could be very easy. It could be done, like Prabhupada said, in 1 minute, if we just surrender to Krishna. But it can also be a very gradual process. And that makes me come into the topic of today's lecture, the evolution of consciousness. And who do I want to be, really? So those people who forget Krishna, they're called ignorant. Ignorant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ignorant of their true spiritual self, and ignorant about the relationship between God and myself. So, out of this ignorance, sometimes people think that there is no God, or I don't care if there is a God. And these people are generally called atheists, that they don't care or they don't believe that God exists. Atheists, they could be of two kinds. And to understand that, we need to look at the world, that the world is governed by universal laws. I'm not only talking about the law of gravitation or law of mechanics or thermodynamics. We also have subtle laws like the karma, law of karma, that every act that you perform has a reaction, and it's not random. If you go out in the street and you kill somebody, it's not that somebody will walk up to you and give you 1,000,000 crowns. Or if you're very kind and nice and charitable to other people, it's not so that the police will come and put you in jail. So there are the subtle laws of moral and ethics, and they are generally called the law of dharma. Dharma could be translated as righteousness. So somebody who is a little bit higher elevated in consciousness, they don't act whimsically or randomly. Like, I'm looking for happiness, okay, I want money, so I go and rob a bank, or I, take the money from somebody and embezzle. No, they understand that if you break those laws of ethics and moral and justice, you will be punished. Most likely, you will be caught by the police or something and brought to trial and go to prison. But even if you will not go to prison this lifetime, the law of karma is very finely tuned, so you will get your results maybe in the next lifetime instead. So even an atheist who is a little bit intelligent, he follows the laws of dharma because he wants to reach his goals. He wants to have opulence or wealth, which is the result. If you obey the laws given by God, but even if you don't believe in God, you obey the laws, you will reap some result which enable you to engage in what is sometimes called lawful sense gratification. You will get some material prosperity, some wealth, money, beauty, fame, knowledge, strength. Because that's why we came here. We wanted to enjoy separate from Krishna. So without getting the facilities for enjoyment, you will not enjoy. So for somebody who is not very intelligent, break the laws of karma, they will suffer instead because they will get very bad results in karma. And that's why many people, they go to church or the mosque or the synagogue or the temple and pray to God. Or in Hinduism, you have many, many gods to choose from. So they pick the favorite God and pray that, please give me wealth, give me health, so that I can enjoy. So from dharma comes artha, That means desirable things. So everybody understands this. Even in Hinduism, there are different ceremonies and rituals that one can perform to live a good life as a human being. However, one may, as I was saying, you may be an atheist, but you're smart enough to still follow the universal laws so that you get a good life and you become a civilized human being. You don't cause disturbance for others. Ignorant people, they cause suffering for other people, either purposefully by injuring them physically or verbally, or by simply being careless and don't bother about the consequences. But an intelligent person is careful of following the laws of the universe, even if he's an atheist. If you're a theist, if you're a believer in God, that means either you believe in the supreme God, Krishna, Vishnu, and of his forms, or you believe in the lesser gods, which are jivas, just like us, but they are entrusted with great responsibility in the management of the material world, like Agni in charge of fire, Vayu in charge of wind, Varuna in charge of the oceans, Saraswati in charge of learning, Indra, who is in charge of weather and wind, and also the king of the devas. You have a long list: Ganesh, Brahma, Kali, Durga, Shiva. So one can worship them directly, but for selfish purpose, because I want to be rich, I want to be healthy, I want to enjoy good life, separate from Krishna, separate from the Supreme Lord. But at least you become a theist, you understand that the laws are not random. There is a lawgiver. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. God is the giver of the laws. And it's for a particular purpose. It's for us to learn how to surrender. You surrender to the laws, and then when you evolve your consciousness more, you surrender to the laws because the laws comes from God. And then at one point, you surrender to God directly, and you may start worship the Lord in a regulated fashion, that you become a real bhakta or bhaktin, where you perform your sacrifice, you offer your food, you give gifts to the Lord, and less, Hare Krishna, welcome, less and less for the purpose of personal gain, personal profit, but simply because you gradually understand that the real source of happiness is in pleasing not the senses or the body or the family or anything, but to please the Lord, of which we are parts and parcels, because this is our original position, our original constitutional position. So when we study the Vedas, which God has given us very mercifully, we can understand that the purpose of the Vedas ultimately is to know God. Even though the Vedas may prescribe so many rituals and ceremonies by which you can become materially prosperous and healthy, you can have a lucrative business, start your own company. But a person who evolves the consciousness understands that, well, this may be fine for a limited time, because at one point I will not have the company anymore. I will be too old and too weak to run it. And ultimately, I have to leave this body. I have to leave the family, the wife, the children, everything behind. So one may ask, what is the ultimate good of worshipping any demigod or doing any ritual for this temporary kind of pleasure? When Krishna clearly says in the Gita, Yoga Kshemam Vaham Yaham, For one who becomes my bhakta, Krishna says, I will provide, I carry what you lack, and I preserve what you have. Not that God will give you so much so you will become completely distracted from your constitutional loving relationship with God in exchange of service and love. Because that's another thing in this world. When you forget who you are, you think you're this body, then you also become very much distracted by everything that is connected to the body. I want to have a material future, therefore I will study very hard, I will go to the university, I will go and look for a job and make a lot of money and buy my car and my apartment and all the material comforts. And you become so much distracted. You make a down payment and then you have to continue pay every month until something is paid for. So everything of these things are distracting you from your real purpose of being Krishna's eternal servant. So when you surrender to Krishna, he will make sure you get everything you need, but not so much that you become completely distracted, and not too little so you end up in the street having nowhere to live. This is the thing. Abrahma Bhuvana Loka, from the greatest planet to the lowest. These are places which are dukhalayam ashashvatam. They are full of misery and they are temporary. And if you go to heaven, because you have so much nice karma, you've been following all the dharma nicely, then you will live there for many lives, for hundreds of thousands of years, and enjoy all kinds of material benefit. Sounds nice, right? Well, you're so much busy and distracted and occupied in material enjoyment that you forget about your real purpose in life. If you break the laws, if you're an immoral, unethical, and somebody who likes to see other people suffer, then you go to hell and you spend lifetime suffering in hellish condition. And that's also distraction, because you're all the time thinking, how can I get out of this suffering? The only thing I want to get out is from hell. So you forget everything about being the eternal Krishna's servant. So going to hell is no good, and going to heaven is no good either. In this world, at least, you have a mixture. Krishna is very nicely fine-tuning that you have to suffer having a material body, to take your birth, to live for a while, get some sickness, like some flu or bad voice or whatever, fever. And then ultimately, most of us, we grow old and suffer the pain of a body which is gradually breaking down. And ultimately, the body will die and you have to leave it. So these are the four basic sufferings of material life: Janma, Vyadi, Jara, Mrityu. But there are also other kinds of suffering depending more of your karma. And the Adhyatmika Klesha means the suffering that you cause yourself by being too much in anxiety and too much disturbed in your mind, too unregulated in your habits, that you eat anything or drink anything and stay up very late one night and then go to sleep very early the next. And that Krishna explains in the Gita, that it's very good to be regulated, because then the body will be peaceful, and when you're peaceful, you can engage in spiritual life. So the Adhyatmika Klesha you create for yourself by bad habits, and then you have Adhibhautika Klesha, that's suffering created by other Buddhas, the living beings. Snake bite, mosquitoes, wasps, but even human beings who are very bad towards you, treat you very disrespectfully, or beat you up physically, or with harsh, scorching words insult you, like that. And then you had Adhidaivika Klesha, that is suffering brought about by material nature in the form of terrible weather, or volcano, earthquake, drought, flood, all these things. Earthquake, I think I said that. So these three different sufferings combined create a situation which is sometimes very hard for us, even if we are in the middle planetary systems. So you end up in a place like this, which is good enough for taking up spiritual life, to become a Krishna Bhakta. But it's also bad enough so you don't get attached to it. It's a mixture of enjoyment and suffering, so that you can focus on spiritual life and become detached. So that's the different steps of evolution of consciousness. When you see all these things, you can see that this place is not really a place for a gentleman or a gentlewoman. We don't belong in this material world. We belong in the spiritual world, in a loving relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan Sri Krishna. And it's very easy to do devotional service. Yat karoshi adashnasi, yat juhosi dadasi yat. Whatever you do, whatever you give away, whatever you do in sacrifice, you just do it for me, Krishna says, as an expression of love and affection. So anyone can very easily do seva, devotional service to God, by giving, either give of money, you give of your fruits, you give things like grains or beautiful cloth or fruits, vegetables, or you give of yourself, you give of your time, helping decorating the temple or the altar, helping cleaning up, washing the dishes, serving out prasadam, etc. So it's very natural to be of service. And the most natural thing is to be of service to the Lord, to God, to Krishna. And in that way, you may start doing regular service more out of duty, because you understand that this is what I'm supposed to do. This is the best thing I can do in my life, is to do service. But then later on, you evolve even more when your heart becomes cleansed from chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, every day, associating with other devotees and doing service. Your heart becomes clean from all anger, enviousness, illusion, etc. And you become very much attracted to the service, not so much out of duty or out of fear, but out of pure attraction. You're spontaneously wanting to do more and more service for Krishna, and the reciprocation becomes more and more sweet, like this. So you may do the same kind of service, but you do it more out of affection, affinity, love, than out of duty. Every day, regulated. And ultimately, you will attain the supreme goal of life. You will attain pure love of God, which is the thing that actually satisfies you more than anything else. Any other happiness you will try to find cannot compare even a fraction to the happiness found in a loving relationship with God. So this is what Krishna gradually introduces throughout the Vedic literature. And the reason why there are so many literatures and so many different kind of literatures is that there is always a book for the person on a particular platform, on a particular evolution of consciousness. So there are books from beginners, there are books for demigod worshippers, and like that. And there are books for the most highly elevated devotees, describing very intimate things about Krishna and his loving devotees and Vraj in Vrindavan. So we find the proper platform, and that will answer the question, who am I? But the other question from this class today is, who do I want to become? Who do I want to be? So once you understand where you are, you can strive and become an even better devotee like that. And worship and love Krishna very favorably. Because there are some deviations, I may say, that don't fit on this ladder of evolution of consciousness. One deviation is somebody who knows that God exists. So in that sense, from the lexical or philosophical point of view, he is a theist because he knows that gods exist. But he hates God. He is constantly afraid or hating. So maybe you know an example of such a person. I'm thinking about Kamsa. Kamsa, he knew all the laws of Dharma. He could respect and perform all the sacrifices and conduct like a civilized person. He knew that God exists, but he hated him. This is a very unfortunate position. And for an ignorant person who may be an immoral atheist or like that, you simply by coming in contact with the knowledge and in the association of devotees, there's a chance that he will gradually evolve his consciousness, even if you're ignorant, immoral atheist. And even if you're a moral atheist, you can evolve like that. But for somebody who understands that God exists, but hates him, that's very difficult. The only way out of this situation is the causeless mercy of Krishna himself. He can help and change if you're such a person, but obviously you're not. The other situations, there are deviations from the path of elevation, is the voidist, somebody who thinks that everything ultimately is empty, it's nothing. I'm talking about basically Buddhists. They don't believe in God, they don't believe in the soul, and they certainly don't believe in any relationship because everything is void. But still, they have their literature, they have their spiritual ceremonies like that. But that's a very unfortunate situation. Similarly, the impersonalist, they may believe that God exists, but God is simply an energy. It's just Brahman. It's not a person. So therefore, I can basically do what I want. I can become Brahman or whatever. So these two last categories, they are the worst. Mahaprabhu was saying, Mayavadi Shunilahoy Sarvanash. Mayavadi Bhashya Shunilahoy Sarvanash. That if you listen to impersonalism or voidism, everything is destroyed, annihilated. And that's why when Srila Prabhupada composed his own pranam mantras, he added the line, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prashatya Deshatarne. They said he will vigorously fight against the Nirvishesh, the impersonalism, and the Shunyavad, the voidism, the emptiness that is prevalent so much in the western part of the world. So that was Prabhupada's particular task to fight this. Even those kind of rare people that accept God but hate him, there still is some hope. Like Shishupal, Kamsa, they were all killed by Krishna. That was his causeless mercy, and he awarded them liberation. But as a Mayavadi, impersonalist, and a voidist, there's no hope. It's just total destruction of them. So whatever you do, don't go into these realms of just thinking impersonalism and emptiness. So the evolution of consciousness is there. And then the quick way, you can bypass this whole hard work, following Dharma, and then get some opulence and wealth, and then you can enjoy Kama. It's a whole big enterprise going on. Very much work, fruitive activity. You can bypass this very quickly by taking up Harinam, Sankirtan. Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam. Kalau nasteva, nasteva, nasteva. Gatir anyata. to get real success in this age of Kali, there is actually no other way than chanting the holy name of the Lord, chanting the holy name of the Lord, chanting the holy name of the Lord. So this is the rapid way. So for anyone who tried, just chant 1 round every morning, or 2 rounds, or 4 rounds, will quickly notice how much your consciousness evolves in a very, very short time. So I think I will end here. If there are any comments or questions. Yes, sir.
As we are living in material world, we are kind of bound to learn material knowledge. And you say we shouldn't listen to Mayavadi, to anyone who is not, devoid of God, devotee of God. Then how will you do this? Professional versus spiritual education.
Well, a lot of knowledge in the material world is not about learning philosophy. It's about learning some skill. So that's okay. But if somebody starts to preach to you that excuse me, everything is one and you are God and this and that, don't listen to that. Okay, I don't think I can speak much more. So thank you very much. Let's have some kirtan. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.